home with you. Now, these products are plant origin. They don't treat, heal, mitigate, or cure any disease. They correct the body's need for cell-to-cell communication. So it functions. It's the main software for your body to run on, so you can put food in and handle it correctly. It just replaces what we're not putting in it now. It's a replacement. You know what I call this glycotechnology? Life support. That's what it is. Idea. Now I'm going to show you some cases. And physicians are allowed to show cases. I've had approval from everyone here that I can show you these. I mention no names of anybody. These are generics. But I just want to give you a feel of what this technology can do. This is a 65-year-old male, had been on glyconutrients just a little less than 2 months. His wife called me. She lived in southern Missouri. She called me and she said, Dr. Marvin, all my husband's warts fell off in bed during the night. And she said, is there anything to worry about? I said, not unless you're emotionally attached to his warts. But I want to tell you, it's more than just telling you that to make you laugh. You see, this is a verruca virus. A verruca virus is what causes warts. To have those warts fall off, those viruses had to die. The biggest danger a female has today for cancer of the cervix is human papillomavirus. Now, I just put this out to ask you, does it make sense that if it kills this virus, it might protect women from cancer of the cervix? Why not? That's a bad disease. I just wanted to share that. This is a 7-year-old boy with severe reaction to immunization, the thiomarisol immunization. He was taken to 2 medical centers, one in the Children's Research Hospital, and in that hospital they said to the mother, she's a single mom, your child will never talk. Never say a word. He had that severe of an autistic reaction. Okay? A friend of mine took him over, the mother over 2 bottles of the children's preparation of this technology and said, just, give him a couple of these twice a day. That's all. Okay? 3 weeks later, they were wrestling, because an autistic kid like that, the doctors tell the mother, you play with them and wrestle with them, because the other kids won't play with them because they think they're weird because they can't talk. Okay? So they were wrestling on the floor as she was told to do. He slipped and bumped her head, and she was laying on her back rubbing her forehead. He reached over and said, are you okay? First words she'd ever heard out of a 7-year-old. First words. Now, 2 medical centers. One that I graduated from, and the other one, a research pediatric center, said he will never speak the rest of his life. Now, I figured up the cost. This is less than $80. Less than $80 to get that boy to talk. He's now speaking normally. Is that worth your attention? Is that worth your consideration? 65-year-old male with spinal stenosis, good friend of mine. That's where the spinal column compresses the spinal cord. And there's nothing but narcotics. And this man was addicted to narcotics. He'd been 7 years with this pain. He would come to meetings that I was involved in that wasn't this technology, but some other meetings. He'd go to sleep immediately because he was so loaded with narcotics. I put him on these, and after 2 weeks, I had lunch with him. And I said, Hank, have you seen any change? I was all excited. I was pretty new at this. I said, have you seen any change, Hank? Yeah, he said, all of my psoriasis is gone. I didn't even know he had psoriasis because he wore long sleeve shirts and trousers because he had silver scales on his knees and elbows. But after 4 months, he's totally off of all pain medicine, has had no pain whatsoever from this, and it was harder to get him off the narcotics than it was to get rid of his pain. His body needed this technology and couldn't get along without it. This is my granddaughter. 23-year-old female with severe asthma. Started at age 9, got worse at age 11. She carried 3 inhalers and 2 oral medicines. Her main antigen was wheat dust. Her parents farm 8,000 acres of wheat in western Kansas. She couldn't go home from college and breathe. Okay? So her mother and I figured out we need to have Jessie on this. After 3 weeks on this technology, her doctor took her off of all of her inhalers and all of her medicine. And that summer, a month later, she drove a combine and harvest. She's now in college again. She's in law school in Florida and has no problems. Healthy. She couldn't even be where she is today because of her asthma being so severe. She carries one inhaler kind of as her lioness blanket, as her security blanket. 62-year-old female with cancer of the uterus, very vicious type cancer. In 1999, she used conventional treatment, which is surgery, radiation, and chemo. And everybody said, we got it all. But 6 years later, as many times happens, you see, in October of 2005, she was found to be having a big abdominal distension, just like she was 8 months pregnant. They took off 8 to 10 liters of ascites fluid, water off her abdomen. They knew the tumor was back. Okay? Her cell count, this is CEA, count was 421. She started on glyconutrients. You see that S? That means plural. That means it's not one, but they work in synergism. They work together, these different types of glyconutrients. They work in a certain way, and that's what's really exciting to me, to know that. Okay? Now, she started on the glyconutrients on November the 12th, 2005. She was given 6 chemotherapy treatments, and with the glyconutrients, she tolerated the chemo very well. In fact, she didn't lose her hair because it protected her from that. Now, here's her update. In April of 06, her cell count was 10. She's already been on an Alaskan cruise. Her husband was so elated that he had his wife back. He took her on an Alaskan cruise. I had to write her a note that she could take glyconutrients because she was afraid they'd be impounded when she left customs. They weren't, and she got along fine. Now, in July, she had a repeat CEA, and it was 7. This lady is her lady most happy, and you know, I feel I'm a physician who has been greatly blessed to see this. You know, I believe that everything I've done, all the education I've had, was for such a time as this. Thank you. This is a 58-year-old female. Her husband is a physician. He's an allergist. And when he and I got to know each other, he brought his wife and 2 kids to me to take care of. He said, I'm an allergist and they have other problems. I want you to take care of them, to get all things. Because you're a family doc, I'm a specialist. So I did, and I know the family very, very well. After I got back from Tulsa, Oklahoma, being chairman of family medicine at ORU, I discovered that this lady had developed a drug-resistant Pseudomonas. Very bad infection. She'd been to 2 infectious disease specialists, and they had told her, this will kill you because there's no known antibiotics that will do this. It will clear you. Now, you're going to have to really stretch your belief tonight because I can prove this too. I can prove it with lab tests. Doctors told her there was nothing they could do and that it would eventually kill her. She started on glyconutrients, and in 3 days, her husband, who's an absent-minded professor type, he said, you know, I believe I should go get a urine specimen so I can have the before, and then in a couple of months, have the after, and see if it did any good. In 3 days on this, he got a specimen, sterile catch, and it was totally clear. In 3 days. Nothing else in the armamentarium of your hospital, drugstore, or doctor's office could touch it. She was clear in 3 days. I can prove it with lab. 58-year-old female with severe fibromyalgia. She lives in Fresno, California. Now a good friend of mine. You see, I have some people that don't know me, like in California, and they call me. And I had a lady that had fibromyalgia, and her husband didn't believe in this. And every time I'd call, he'd say to his wife, Betty, Snake Oil Man is on the phone. Well, let me tell you, it didn't bother me too much. You know, after all, he doesn't know anything about it, so what else would he think? But he doesn't call me Snake Oil Man now because his wife has no fibromyalgia. He calls me Dr. Marvin. And I'm not bragging about that. I'm just telling you, he saw the message. You know, like he was from Missouri, the Show Me State. Well, anyhow, this lady's husband called me because he had arthritis and wanted to be put on this. And so I didn't know anything about his wife, Janice, who was a respiratory therapist, had been incapacitated for 6 years, unable to work. And so I got it ordered for him. And so when it came, he hadn't told her. She saw this box out in front of her door, and you see, she tried this technology 7 years ago and nothing happened. Because you have to take it, as I said a while ago, in a synergistic manner. I'm not doing prescriptions, I'm doing recipes, because this is a food. But you have to take it right, okay? So, she was very angry at her husband wasting her money. So she sat down with some of the bulk glyconutrient, and she took 16 tablespoons in a row, proving to her husband it was worthless. But see what happened. In 8 hours, her pain left, and she's now pain-free, and that's been a year ago last September. And she does anything she wants. She's available to do anything. Climbs, exercises, works, does anything. Pretty good results. In one afternoon, proven it wouldn't work. I like those kind. 42-year-old female with a sterility problem. They both had arthritis. We ordered the products that they needed for arthritis that helped their body heal itself. And after about 3 months, she said to her husband one morning, I think I'm allergic to this stuff. Well, why? He said. Well, because I get nauseated every morning. And when I cook your food, I get worse nausea. I almost vomit. He said, we better go see the doctor. I don't think anybody's allergic to this. And she was pregnant. Now, they'd been worked up in an infertility clinic at the age of 24. Told they'd never have a child, so they didn't use birth control. But let me tell you, folks, you want to warn people. Because she's pregnant. And she's ecstatic she's got the long-awaited child in her body, but she wishes she was 24 years instead of 42. But that's in God's timing. 73-year-old female with MS, lives back in North Carolina. I love these couple. They're very common, ordinary people. She'd been bedfast for 3 years, only could be up in a wheelchair if he lifted her out of the chair. He called me after 5 months. And I've got several of these that's happened this way, but for the sake of time, I only give you one of the example of each. I've got some in California that are just as dramatic. 5 months after she started on the glyconutrients, she was starting to stand by herself and take 6 steps every day. She's now walking. Her husband got mad at me. He called me and I wasn't home, and he left a message, please call me, Doc. I said, I wonder what's happened. So I called him. And he told me this, and I said, that's tremendous. He said, what do you mean tremendous? That's not tremendous. That's a miracle. But I don't believe it's a miracle. I believe it's unusual. Because if you establish the physiology in your body like it's been set up to be, it isn't a miracle. It's unusual. Because you're putting in the machine the right ingredients. You're putting gas in the gas engine instead of diesel. And it works. Here's a 51-year-old female with hepatitis C. She had a viral load of 5.5 million. And she also had fibromyalgia, high blood pressure, gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD. She used 5 pillows under her bed at night. In less than 3 months, she lost 40 pounds. In a year, she lost 84 pounds. How did she lose the weight? Because once she got focused on wellness, once she got focused on nutrition, she started eating right instead of some of the stuff she was eating. And the weight just welded. She looks like a model now. And she wasn't really obese when we first started. But she has no problems with her hepatitis C. She dropped her 5.5 million viral load down to 375,000 almost immediately. They took her off of the transplant rate list for liver transplants, and her oncologist wants to see her only once a year. 20-year-old female with ovarian cancer, metastatic disease all over her peritoneum. She had 22 tumor implants. In 3 months, the tumor, the size of an orange on her ovary, was reduced to the size of a pea. And all the tumors in her peritoneum were gone. She had laparoscopic identification, they were gone. And she drove clear from northern Arkansas to Kansas City one night just to tell people at a meeting I had. 82-year-old female, lives in Kansas City, had a melanoma of her right knee. They said, now what we're going to do is take out everything on the inside of your leg and all your groin. You're going to have to use a crutch because we're going to cut up enough muscles you won't be able to walk without a crutch. She said, I believe I'll pass. She didn't have any chemo, she didn't have that surgery. She went on this, and after 3 months, with this technology, she was cancer-free. 72-year-old male diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma of the throat. Now, he was a meat and potatoes guy. I don't suppose you have any redneck meat and potatoes guy here in this state, but we have them where I come from. And after 3 months, he called and said, I'm sick and tired of this stuff. I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm not going to have any more of it. We were concerned. You know, he has a vicious cancer, squamous cell carcinoma of the neck. But his wife called us that afternoon from work, and she said, don't worry about it, Doc. He hadn't missed a dose. I've been mixing it in his food. After 6 months on glyconutrition, the doctor was staging his disease by doing multiple biopsies, and they were all negative. I've had that happen in 3 other people. I've had it happen in cancer of the colon. They do multiple biopsies to convince the patient they need to have a colostomy, and by that time, they don't find any cancer. I can talk about that forever. If you really get interested in, we do a cancer seminar occasionally, and so that might be something you might be interested in. So, the doctor couldn't believe it. He read the report over and over the day he gave it to the patient. 77-year-old male diagnosed with cancer of the prostate. Here's one of my favorite cases. This lady called me in May of '05, and she said, Dr. Marvin, I understand you can help me save the life of my husband who's dying of terminal prostate cancer. I said, I'll sure try, but I don't know what you mean by terminal prostate cancer. Doesn't mean anything to me. She said, well, in February, we went to see a urologist because he had urinary tract problems. His PSA was 7,800. I have men calling me with PSAs of 10 crying, and I share this with them. 7,800. Verified. So in May, we put him on this technology. Now, at the time of the diagnosis, back in March, the doctor said, we're not going to do surgery because there's more cancer of the prostate outside your prostate than in, so it won't do any good to remove it. It's in your lungs and in your bones and in your liver. It's all over your body. So they didn't give that, and they said there's no chemo that'll affect it. So what they did instead was use radioactive implants. Well, in June, they took them out because they hadn't done a thing. So from June until November the 4th, all he had was this technology. Now, she was crying when she called me up here in May. She called me on the 8th of November, crying again. Every time I hear this lady, she's crying. I said, what's wrong? She said, we did a PSA. I said, well, what was it? She said 0.5. Now, folks, whether you believe it or not, there's nothing on this globe that would do that. Nothing. But your body. And your body is what does it. Your body functioning correctly when the right ingredients is given to it to do enormous things that you can't even believe. 55-year-old female had elevated lead level. This lead level was 27 milligrams %. The EPA has a law that when it reaches 30, you have to quit work because you can't get any lead out of your body. We have 6 battery plants in our area. Makes batteries, and everybody in there is getting lead levels every 2 weeks, some every week. So she had a 27. She had 2 years to go for retirement. She wanted to work out her full time. So she went on these products for something else. We didn't know this would work. The next time, 6 weeks later, her lead level was 20. It's now 17. She's ecstatic because she can now work without any worry of lead poisoning. Now, these products are plant origin. They do not treat, heal, cure, or mitigate any disease. They allow your body to have cell-to-cell communication if used in a synergistic manner. So they synergize to what your body needs. And that allows the body to heal itself. And it's wonderful. I'll never be the same again since I found this. And believe me, it's for me. Believe me. And I can tell you, it's for you. You'll never feel the feeling you get inside when you help somebody like this man with a 7,800 PSA. You'll never be the same. You'll be rejoicing for the next week. Now, Tom Edison is not a physician, but a pretty smart man. And I love this quote. He says, if the doctor of today does not become the nutritionist of tomorrow, then the traditionist of today will become the doctor of tomorrow. Now, I want to thank you for allowing me to present something that I'm very excited about. It's done more to me than I've had done in years. My wife and I enjoy sharing this with people for no other reason than to see people get well. Let me tell you, we're in this whole world to give because it will be given unto you. And that's what we do. We give. We go out and help people. That's the whole answer. You don't know how that feels. Let me tell you, I am excited to get up every morning. You think I'm old? Well, I'm about 15 years younger than I was. Because this is the thing that will put life into your step. And you can be part of it anytime you want. Thank you very much.